2020.
It's been
challenge.
Pants.
We've got
Steve.
through it. It's been utter.
Stop using the corporate word challenge. It is not a challenge. Next, you'll be saying it was an opportunity.
It was an opportunity to do more gaming. Come on.
It was an absolute shit show, and good riddance.
Hi, this is Steve, aka @AllOnThar on Twitter, and here are some more of my gaming vexes.
Hi, I'm Kay, long-time role player, grognard, academic, extremely harangued person.
Hi, I'm Kat, also another role player. I also am part of RP Haven.
Hey, I'm Neil. You may also know me as Old Scouser Role Playing or That Scouser Git.
That's not true. That is true. Reader, it was true. Not really. Okay. All right. Okay. 2020 has been a year, I think it's fair to say. So what I wanted to do is to have a think about a couple of things, really. So the first one was what 2020 meant for our gaming, and then to come on to what gaming meant for our 2020, because for me it's been a lifesaver. I think it's fair to say. I mean, I did get some face-to-face in early on this week. We went to Grog 10 and we had some face-to-face there. Did the rest of you guys get any face-to-face gaming at all before it all hit?
Yeah, no, I did. Both sort of with groups of friends and also at the club that I help run as well. And then sort of towards the beginning of March, basically hell happened and we all had to have a very high learning curve to get online properly. So I know some of you guys are really, really quite hot on it because you are so far apart from each other. Whereas I never really had that. I kind of joined the odd game online, but I wasn't really au fait with it. I was always much more face-to-face. So at the beginning, 2 months in, I was sort of once in nearly in tears going, I really miss on gaming face-to-face. And all of a sudden, I realised the other day that gaming online is now the norm. Can't even remember what it was like to roll a dice.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, we've all got loads of dice, and yeah, it'd be interesting to think about what 2020 meant for our buying patterns, actually, because I think mine's gone through the roof. But certainly in gaming stuff, anyway. What about you, Kate?
Yeah.
Did you get any face-to-face in before it all happened?
I didn't, and I generally don't either, mostly because, I live like right out in the sticks in Middlesbrough. But it is like right out away from everywhere, so that, it's not exactly a gaming metropolis. So I was doing all of my stuff online anyway. But for me, 2020 and the lockdown meant that there were more opportunities to game, which I thought was really good. So lots of online stuff. And there were people, I'm sure we'll get to this later, who were way more interested in doing something above and beyond what we would normally expect when it comes to the virtual tabletops. And I think that's kind of the big thing that 2020 has meant for me. But also it meant, that my mental health went absolutely in the toilet, and therefore I became extremely flaky for anything other than a one shot. And I think that was a real disappointment to me, because I felt I was letting lots of people down, but I knew I had to undertake all that self-care and, go to bed when I was tired, which was all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a bit sort of up and down, really, for that.
No, I think I'd certainly agree with that. I think it's been such a huge impact on how we just everything in our world. And I mean, for me, gaming was a bit of a touchstone to hold on to. I mean, I've always done a lot of virtual tabletop gaming anyway, but for me, it was the big hit of. I mean, we'll talk more about cons, and I know, Neil, you sort of organised cons face-to-face and, now virtual as well. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think, it's huge impact. So what are your thoughts, Neil? Yeah, obviously you got a little bit of face-to-face in?
Yeah, I did. A fair bit, to be honest, because, thinking back to January and looking forwards at that point, 2020 looked like it was going to be absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
We were talking about the One Ring Road trip, getting that on. There was UK Games Expo. we all the stuff we knew we'd loved, Albert,
I'm getting depressed
meat, and all this stuff we were kind of looking forward to. And the year got off to a brilliant start because early in January I went to go play Manchester in Fanboy 3, and that's organised by Newt from D101 Games. Great little event. And then, of course, there was Grog 10. So even within January, I had two decent gaming events. And Grog 10, as you know, was an amazing weekend of gaming and camaraderie and taking the piss out of each other. So I think there was about 10 of us actually.
There were,
went down there, and we just had a fantastic weekend. I think there 3 nights, back-to-back gaming for the most part, but still plenty of time to socialise and catch up. Just brilliant, just one of those really nice weekends. And even at the end of January, then I had another Go Play Manchester in February, and the last event I went to was Convergence in the first weekend in March. And at that point, there was a lot of talk about COVID and what it might mean. And, you look at things that you regret. And that day, there were 3 gaming sessions. Played a game in the first session. I ran a game in the second session, and I was supposed to play a game in the third session. But because I knew it would go on quite late and I had a bit of a drive home, I ducked out of it. And you think that was the last potential face-to-face game I would have had, and I kind of ducked out of it. And by all accounts, it was a great game as well.
I chose not to attend Convergence because I thought there's loads of cons coming up.
Yeah.
Because like you, I'd got essentially every 6 weeks a game event coming up, plus the virtual gaming as well that we were doing. So that scuppered it. Kat, so what's your actual role within the Role Play Haven setup? Aren't you sort of the Grand Poobah or something?
Not that important. I am General Dog Swaddy. No, I'm one of the directors. I help run and collate everything at RP Haven, basically. So, and that's a step up. I used to be the branch manager for our Stratford branch, and I did that for 6 years-ish.
How did you manage, the transition or the fallout from that?
Yeah, I mean, to prior to COVID, RP Haven was always physical in branch. In Wales, London, and Plymouth, we had physical clubs that meet up in a pub or a community centre 1 night a week to game. As soon as COVID got serious in the press, there was a lot of meetings. The directors did a lot of meetings over it as we tried to figure out what the hell was happening, because you could see what was happening abroad. I think we all looked at that and went, "Eek, that's coming this way." And then once it was announced, we immediately shut our physical doors and boosted up. We got our Discord server, boosted it up, and got persuaded, it sort of said, here you are, you can game online, we'll help you. And between us and our, to be fair, quite frankly, fantastic volunteers and committees, we got nearly everybody online.
Right,
To start with, I think everyone did stick to their own club nights, their own clubs. But as it moved on, I think there's a lot more inter-branch mingling now. Because it's online, people can. It's a lot easier now for, say, somebody in Wales to go, I really want to try RuneQuest, but nobody's doing it in Wales. Ooh, actually, Archway is doing it in London. And it's online. I can join. Happy days. So it has kind of helped, but it has been difficult because whereas before, with all the clubs, because you saw people weekly, there was a bigger community. Putting that online has been rather weird. I mean, our committees have worked so hard to keep everyone together as a community, but it is so hard, and it is a totally different beast as well. And collating games online, I mean, I feel sorry for our games coordinators because they have worked fantastically with that. And some of them explaining how to use online. It was really weird because some of our younger members really didn't even know how to do this, which was really odd. And
right.
Expected with the older members, maybe they wouldn't be so au fait with Roll20 or Astral or any of the others. But it was a real weird mix. But yeah, it's a total different beast.
Apart from the gaming side of things, did you find that you started to pick up a role as a, social support person as well? Because I think a lot of us invest so much of our, well, certainly for me, this virtual group. They're my main group of friends, really, because of the job I do and traveling around, etc. And because I'm a miserable old git as well, which also makes things challenging. Actually, without that sort of this social network that we've built up, I think I know would have really struggled. I just wonder if that was something that you felt conscious of, that you were there as that sort of safety net and support for people, or did it never get to that level of depth, if you like?
It did with some people, I think. I did have a couple of contact with a few members who were feeling a little bit suddenly detached because this was one of their big nights of seeing people. And also for myself, I actually then recognised what they were saying in myself, because I didn't realise until somebody sort of said how they were feeling, and just wanted a sounding board, really. And I'd leave the conversation and think, actually, I've been feeling exactly the same. And I didn't realise it until that point, which was really weird, because sometimes you don't realise that mentally you're not in the best state until somebody else asks you for help, and then you look at yourself and go, oh.
Yeah.
So it's gaming has really helped, I think, a lot of people being able to game online. Yeah. You can still see people have a laugh, and let's face it, for those 3 hours you're not talking about COVID.
Yes, unless you're playing one of Dirk the Dice's games. It's all about post. I blame him for this, by the way, with his desire for post-apocalyptic gaming. I think he influenced 2020. So Neil, you organised cons, didn't you? Face-to-face cons, and what was that? What was that like? That experience?
Yeah, moving from I guess. So when we say cons, I suppose a bit of context, really. They are just pretty small. So I've run Burrito Con. We had Burrito Con 5 this year, and the previous 4 were in Fanboy 3. And I think the biggest we got to was 5 or 6 tables, a couple of sessions each. So maybe 30 people. So con is was certainly at the smaller end of what you might get away with for a con. When it came to Burrito Con Online, though, and I still had that thing where, in the early days, we didn't know how long this was going to last. We had some kind of delusion that within like 2 months it'd all be over and we'd all be back to normal, and UK Games Expo would go ahead and all that kind of stuff.
But how could that be with such clear guidance?
Well,
how was that possible?
Absolutely. I mean, that was the thing. Well, yeah.
You're right. I mean, there is a lot of uncertainty around anyway. So yeah,
and I think, and I suppose there was a lot of guessing and so on, wasn't there?
Yeah.
So when I did decide it had to go online, it wasn't that big a deal. I suppose the scale of it, I mean, I don't know how many people we had in the end, but I think it was about 60 in the end for the online event. And the organisation really wasn't too much of a problem, I wouldn't have said. I'm fairly organised anyway. So it's just maintaining a big spreadsheet and so on. I probably could have made things a little bit easier for myself. I micromanaged it a little bit, but I think that paid dividends, because when it came to the day, it all seemed to go pretty smoothly.
And did you find people, and this is just a general question really, people that were quite happy to game face to face didn't feel able, or just didn't want to transition over to virtual gaming?
I mean, I didn't really speak to people about stuff like that. I guess there probably were people who prefer the face-to-face aspect. Well, I think we all prefer the face-to-face aspect of it, but there are people who were just uncomfortable with moving online. But what it did open up was the possibility of people who wouldn't have in any way been able to get to physical face-to-face Burrito Con in Manchester, were able to play. And that was fantastic. I know there's, Tristan in Japan, I think he played, and I know we had a couple of guys from the States. It's just absolutely fantastic that, my little like Burrito Con, which actually was just a filler day. It was just to pass some time because I had to drop my daughter off at the Manchester Comic Con, and I thought that's how it started. I thought I'll get a couple of, and I think that the challenge now is when we get back to hopefully some kind of normality. And we are talking about, certainly I think smaller events will be realistic maybe later on in the year. You're gonna be thinking, well, that's our last now on the people who attended last year for the online stuff can't come to this now. So what do? Do you run a dual face-to-face and online? And that then is a lot more to manage.
Complicated, definitely.
So, but so I'd just say it is easier than you think, though. If you just go on Twitter and go, this weekend, Gamescom, online, 2 sessions, 3 sessions, whatever, who's interested? You'd be surprised. And then people just go, yeah, me. And you just grab a list of everyone's names, wait till you get close to the date, and then just, it's not that.
So you're saying we should all organise more?
I think so.
I'm definitely not doing that now.
Every weekend I'm expecting a GameCon.
Yeah.
But see, what's so great about that, though, is this slightly sort of homebrew nature of it, and I think that's what we need to maintain. I mean, there are those big, the sort of the grog meets, and and then obviously you've got like the absolutely vast cons and stuff. But it's staying away from some of those things that I think make things more stressful. I know that for me, the absolute killer of any kind of con has become Warhorn randomly, because Warhorn is so stressful to me now. I'm so anxious that I get such FOMO when the Warhorn thing goes live. And if I haven't, if I'm not sitting there refreshing it every 3 seconds and picking the game that I want to game with, and also I want to game with people that I've gamed with before, and I want to get a nice mix of playing with people that I know and playing with new people, and I don't want it all to be new people, because then that becomes really stressful. And so this whole Warhorn thing, and that's why I didn't do virtual grog meet, because Warhorn just got so bad. I just threw my toys right out the pram and just went, screw you. But I just was like, screw you, Warhorn. I'm not playing this game anymore. I'm not playing your game. I'm going to play my games, but I'm not going to play yours. And it was just this thing where it had become this horrible barrier. And I'm probably, not speaking for the masses here, but I do find it so unbelievably stressful when things get organised to a certain extent, where you do have sort of these sign-up windows and everybody's hitting refresh every 3 seconds. And it's just, there's something about that is, to me, the antithesis of all of this kind of camaraderie and the companionship that you get around the tables.
Yeah, I can see that definitely, because what I've done with BurritoCon, the first few times, I just did it completely by, I think it created a group in Twitter, and it was all very like, these are the games. In fact, the first 3, I didn't have any sign-ups at all. I just had the GMs and their games, and then when players turned up, it's like, grab a table, pick a game you fancy, and then I would jump on a table that maybe had less players, just as the host, to kind of make sure there was a good balance. And I would agree with you. I think the last face-to-face BurritoCon, I did use Warhorn. And I think that was the one where I had about 30 people. And from an organiser's point of view, it does make it easier, I'll be honest. If, you've got a number of games, anywhere more than maybe 5 or 6 individual games running across the day, it's harder to, to organise that. And I think particularly with a virtual event, like with face-to-face, it's not so bad, because when people have committed, normally they turn up. With a virtual event, it is easier to go, I've got something come up. And, life does that, of course. I really like Warhorn, but I can see where you're coming from, Kay, that it is a barrier as well. If you're worried about getting the right kind of game, or you've got kind of quite a narrow, sorry, I don't want it to sound negative, but you got like a very set specifications of the kind of game you want to play and the people you want to play with. And if you miss that, then it kind of ruins it for you, So,
but I suppose the trick is then to be a GM, because then you get the options. You always get the sign-ups you want. So, but that's got its own challenges, doesn't it? Really. I mean, for me, so I've stopped doing one shots online now, because I just find them just so so much work, I will happily do them in person. So, for example, like Games Expo last year, and that's not a problem at all. I don't know what it is, but trying to do for a one shot online, I just had to recognise in myself that I didn't enjoy it. I like playing on. I don't play, but GMing is just too much. It's too much pressure. We know that there's been this huge shift to online play. I talked about it in the last episode. I'm going to go over that again. But I think also as well, I mean, it's the impact on our approach to gaming. For me, I mean, I try and commit to myself. Stuff that I buy, I'm going to end up running the game for it. Okay. And I just found myself, not that I'm not enjoying it, but I've run a number of games. But I just wonder, because of that drive to get more gaming in, because I found it such a lifeline, whether it's quantity over quality. Talked, I think, before about GMs feeling that sort of, imposter syndrome and that sort of stuff. But I mean, for me, that's what 2020 has been about, that real drive to run lots of games because I've enjoyed doing it. But then there's always that tension about. So I don't know what you guys feel in terms of your gaming behaviour and the things that you've wanted to get out of gaming this year, whether it's changed or not.
I've definitely found that I've reduced the quantity and increased the quality of my games. I think, that's not right, because that sounds like all the games that I've been playing with you lot here have been like low quality, but they haven't. But previously, I've been
Come on, cards on the table, Kay.
Yeah, you lot are all rubbish, and I'm not playing with you anymore. No, but what it really is, though, is that previously I've been very keen to try new stuff, and or try old stuff that I never played back in the day, and getting back to the OSR and anything that you guys have been running, I've been like, yeah, I'll give this a go. And I haven't had that mental ability to learn new rule sets, and I'm definitely sort of sliding back into a comfort zone of these are the games that I like, these are the rules that I know, I just want to play this, even if that's meant then that I've been playing with new players. So I've been kind of casting my net a bit wider, but also just going, do you know what, I don't have that mental strength to suddenly have 8 or 9 different rule sets in my brain at any given time. I'm just going to stick to what I know and what I like. But I did put a foot into the Wesen pool recently, Wesen, I think it's pronounced, and that was really nice, because that was with a whole bunch of people that I'd never played with before, and it was a whole new game. But on the flip side of that was done in Discord, and it was very theatre of the mind. And I think there's this triangle of who you play with, the games that you play, and the platform on which you play them. And that actually, in the times of COVID, you've probably only got 2 of those 3 corners that you can deal with at any time. And you probably can't deal with that third one. And it's just getting that balance between those 3 things and what's comfortable and what's new.
I like that. That's a conceptual framework we can play with. Yeah. That's a good one. Well, you can tell you're academic.
Yeah, PhD student. The triangle of play. Yeah, so brilliant. Players, game, platform. Absolutely.
Yeah. But I think you're right. I think taking refuge in something that you feel comfortable with, or whichever you pick those 2 points in the triangle that you're gonna drive forward, but leave the other one to one. So that makes a lot of sense to me.
I'm pretty much going to kind of echo really what Kay just said. My game, I would say, in a way, is definitely more quality than quantity for game systems. The problem with attending a club is you do get a lot of D&D heavy. Unfortunately, it's just the way of it. That's what a lot of the newer players want to try because of Critical Role and stuff like that. And then you've always got new GMs wanting to do D&D as well. And that's fine. It's awesome. Everyone's enjoying themselves. But online, it meant I could pick a little bit more differently, because I like D&D. I've got no problems with it. I'll put that out there. But I much prefer Vampire or Wraith, or the one we've been playing it now for a few months now, Invisible Sun by Monty Cook. That's a game I would never play probably at club, because it is... because it's a social area, it's a little bit too noisy for something like, I personally feel, for something like Invisible Sun, where you are more theatre of the mind and the interaction between characters and the world, because it's such a weird world. And I got it's far more quality storytelling than I have done in a very long time, because these are things where you do kind of need that private space to be able to do stuff. And also there's the added advantage because you're already gaming online, you can do side sessions in text between you and the GM, or I mean, crudely for extra experience, but to benefit your character and actually grow it separately from the group, because you can do that. Whereas if you're doing stuff only physical at the table, you don't want to do your own little side session because it takes away from everyone else, and you kind of feel a bit too selfish.
Do you think that, okay, let's in this fairy tale land where the vaccine's coming in and it all works and everything, obviously things are going to take time to come back to normal. Do you think, so from your point of view, Kat, that you're going to be doing an awful lot more the role play heaven? Will you still be doing a lot of the virtual stuff as well and running alongside the face to face? Do you think that will continue, or do you think people will go back to that face to face primarily?
I fully think, and we are gearing up to support people in this transaction period, that when we do reopen the branches, we will still have the stuff online as well for people who want to still be online, because there will be people who have reasons they can't still go physical until majority of people are vaccinated, because it could be that their immune systems are bad or they're shielding somebody else. So I think there's going to be for a very long time a flux between the two. They will both be quite strong, both physically and online, because I'm sure that a lot of our members can't wait to get back to a physical table. To be fair, I think half of them can't wait to go to the pub, but pub and dice is just the cornerstone of a lot of gaming for most of us. So I think it's going to be physical. It's probably going to end up something like 60-40, 60 will be online, 40, and then it will slowly switch, I think. I think online's here to stay, personally, because I think
definitely.
but I think a lot of people now are so used to doing more gaming, and I've seen it on Twitter from some of you, and also I've seen it online from some of our members. They're doing more gaming now than they did in their teens, because you can. And now they've done that, are you going to switch back? I don't think so, because it's quite fun.
Yeah, I mean, my gaming before COVID was largely online, apart from cons, really. So it was a very natural thing for me to just move into, just continue, really. I mean, my midweek gaming pretty much stayed the same. It was only really the cons and the weekend events that would have been face-to-face that became online. That was the bit that I guess that changed for me. But I think even with all the face-to-face gaming that does go on, one of the things about online gaming that is you can be a bit more selective about who you game with, I guess. And like all the people I game with online are people I like and I enjoy gaming with. And having been to clubs in the past, to be fair, not recently, there was always somebody who did my head in, or somebody who just
surely not, Neil.
do you know, and it's not like that. And I'm sorry, I'm not saying your club's like that, Kat. I'm sure it's not, but that was my experience. But I mean, you point about what it has changed for me. Some of what you were saying there, Kate, I really get that, because that's what's happened to me. I've been a little bit more contemplative about what I run. One of my recent realizations, having read loads of different rule systems and so on, is I just want to keep things really simple, and that OSR thing for me pretty much nails it. That style of play and old school essentials. For me, I'm thinking, what more do I need beyond that, or games like that? I mean, there are other games I almost certainly will run, and part of that has also been that I know, Steve, you said you spent a lot more money, but I think I've spent less. Certainly on Kickstarter, I've developed this thing where when a Kickstarter comes out, I won't back it straight away. I normally take a day or two. In most cases, I find that by the second day, I'm kind of like, really do I'm not bothered. And if I'm still excited by it after a couple of days, then I'll back it. Some of that's about practical things like having less or shelf space being filled and so on. But I certainly think the tone of the year and so I don't know. Certainly things have changed for me. For sure. In terms of how I run my game, I wouldn't say particularly, but in terms of what the games I want to run, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I've gone probably the other way. I mean, I've run sort of OSR games this year, which I'd never done previously. I quite enjoy the experience of learning new systems, and perhaps I don't know whether players really enjoy the experience of learning it along with me. That's sometimes a bit of a challenge, but I like to, it's almost like, I don't know, your GMing muscles. You like to sort of stretch them and try different systems and try different, so then pick up subsystems and try and drop them in other games, much to the annoyance of the purists that I'm playing with, I'm sure. If you want to play RuneQuest, you don't want to have flipping clocks everywhere.
Chuck a clock in it.
Blades of chuck a clock in it, That's what I did. But I think that's again, one thing that this year has driven me is I've done a lot more, rather than doing sort of like one-shot sort of games. Like I said, I'm not doing that anymore. It's very much focused around the series games, or campaign games, or whatever you want to call it. But yeah.
I've definitely started to move away from the all singing, all dancing virtual tabletops that when I first found Roll20 and got extremely excited about that, and as you will know, having been subjected to my vampire game,
it's a great game
where there were 40,000 handouts, and I've kind of just completely flipped that now. And the last gaming that I did was on Discord, and we didn't even use the Discord dice. We just used our own dice on the table, and it was the honor system, and it was just lovely hearing dice rattle on the table, even if it was through headphones. There was something about it, and I got all excited because I was like, I can get my dice box out again. I haven't looked at this in like a year. And that was great, thinking about our shopping habits, having not bought any dice for ages. And it was just really nice getting back to something where it was just theatre of the mind all the way through. Not a single handout was had, not a single map, absolutely nothing, just some dice and some conversation. And that, I thought, was a real eye-opener for me, that you don't need all of these bells and whistles. But you do need lots of dice. But other than that, you don't. Yeah.
But I think one of the things that really brought home to me was about, so I've always, like, face to face, I've always like take it or leave it, really. I mean, I've always thought, well, it's nice, but I also like playing online. Actually, it's quite equal. I think, for me, it's really, so I had my calendar set out for the year. I had my Tolkien calendar, and I had all the sort of gaming dates on it. And so I was going, when COVID hit, and I was going through, and I was ticking off the days, that dutifully, the black line through each day as you went along. And then you started crossing out gaming events. It was painful, especially with things like, the One Ring Road Trip, and then UK Games Expo, and then Burrito Con, and then Grog, and all this. And it was horrible. And I think, that was the time when, that's, so the virtual community, the groups that we play with, became critical, because it was, that was the outside the family bubble, and then, then you've got the work group, and then you've got your friends. And I think for me, that whole, having the structure of running games, playing games, talking to people online, that, as I say, think about what, gaming meant to me in 2020. Let's say it was a lifesaver. I think just in terms of mental health and how you feel about things, and just having an opportunity to be able to reach out. But I don't know. I think it's risk of getting heavy, but it was, that meant a lot to me. My
day job, I'm stuck in front of a computer, talking to people on Teams, and that's kind of dull. But when it gets to the evening, and you're talking to people, and you're playing games, it's brilliant, and it's the same underpinning technology, but it's just a very different experience. I think for the
you've chosen it, haven't you?
Yeah,
you've chosen that
absolutely, and for the social or the mental health side of it, I guess. That contact with people, being able to chat, and the games themselves, I think, it's not just talking to people. The games themselves, I think, give you something. They give you a sense of working together, of the excitement you get, those dice rolls, and all the things we've always loved from games. Having that almost on tap on a regular basis is fantastic.
I think, Kay, you said, you had to step back from some of the complexity just because of I suppose, bandwidth from your perspective to be able to take all that stuff in.
Yeah, but it was also the kind of flip side of what Neil was experiencing, because I was on Teams all day, or Blackboard Collaborate Ultra, or whatever you want to call your virtual classroom this week. And it was fine over the summer when there were no students around, and we were just kind of preparing teaching and stuff. That was fine. But as soon as the semester started, and I was, I think it was 5 hours a day that I would be in front of students, and then probably another hour of team meetings and stuff as well. And all I did all day was just sit in this chair and communicate. And it got to an evening, and it's like, I've got to get up out of this chair. I can't stay because I've got, I've got my gaming PC, and because I teach a lot of sort of high tech stuff. So I was just constantly at this PC with this mic all day, every day, and then was just like, I can't do it at night as well. I'm going to have to wander into a different room of the house, and I need to not talk to people.
Yeah.
Just for 5 minutes, I need to just shut up, which for me was actually, quite a shock. But it was that kind of stuff. So I think this sort of, there's two types of people. There's the Neils of this world who go, finally, I get to do it on my terms. And then there's people like me who are just like, I think my inner introvert is having a tantrum, and I just need to not talk to anyone for the next kind of 6 hours.
But I suppose, given the community that we've got, because there is a very definite community. I mean, you talked about, called Grognards earlier on, and I think, there certainly is a sort of a shared view of our gaming worlds, or whatever. But it meant that you could, well, I would hope that you meant you could step back from things, and there was no sense of finger pointing, and it meant you could dip back in when it made sense to you. And I think that sort of, I don't know, you talk about a lot that the virtual communities can be toxic, but I think actually this group seems to be fairly good. I think overall, I haven't come across any real issues there. So, with the exception of Neil, obviously, he's grinning at me now.
No, it always has been surprisingly brilliant, though. I mean, in every way, I've found that the Grognard community in particular is so supportive and so understanding, and at no point did anyone go, "Oh God, okay, let us down again," And it's not like I've not had invitations to other games because I've been a bit flaky in the past, and that actually means a lot. And it's also on Twitter and things like that where people say, "Oh, Twitter is an absolute cesspool of humanity," and it's going, and I'm like, well, not if you're a Grognard, it isn't, because you just unfollow all of these awful people, and then you're left with all of the Grognards, and everyone's just lovely all the time. So Twitter has been actually, even when I've not been able to speak to people face to face, and just not been able to have that kind of human interaction. When I have gone, oh God, things are a bit crap, send me some gifs, so there'll be like 200 of them here, and that's something that I think is very important, even more important than it usually is in obviously in times like these.
Definitely.
Well, apart from when I was furloughed, I've actually been at a physical office, so unlike everyone else who gets to work from home, lucky people, I have to go on public transport, go into a workplace, then come home. So for me, the online gaming, one's regular, because apart from club, my own personal games outside that, there is a high percentage of people cancelling because life has got in the way. Whereas I found during this time, because most people were working from home, they were more determined to make it because they wanted to kneel to see somebody else that they wanted to see. So for me personally, because I was in and out of the house, it was a big lifeline, because as well as there's talking to other people, being able to have a laugh over a shared joy in the game, you also get to play a character, and you get to role play that character for an evening. And quite often, most of my characters generally have either a positive outlook on life, or they're so ridiculous playing. It's really improved my mental health, So Mondays I play a small little Visley cat called Fig, who runs amok, breaking into things, and usually lock picking and stealing stuff. But you can't play that and feel miserable, So
it is very definition of escape, isn't it?
Yeah,
really?
I mean, even if you had the crappiest day, you're still going to walk away from that all quite happy. That's where it's kind of helped a lot.
Yeah. I think just echoing, Kay's comments about sort of the level of forbearance that I've been shown by people I've played with, and I've got I get very excited about things, as anyone who's played in my Heart or Spire campaign. Yes. And we will do an episode talking about Spire, the weirdness that was Spire. But I think, again, you say people are lovely because they'll often put up with your complete nonsense and just very.
I think that's interesting because you say complete nonsense, but we're like, oh my God, we're in awe. How does he come up with this stuff?
That's what I hear now. That's why I said it. Come on.
No, I think that's absolutely right. It's interesting because one of the things I've realised, and hearing you all talking about your styles of play and stuff like that, one of the things that I have realised, I don't know if it's specifically due to lockdown and the amount of play and just playing online and so on, I've come to understand it's like, Steve, you're a I don't know what the term, you're like a chameleon. You like whatever you pick up, you just like get it and master it. And whereas I've got a very limited range of what I'm good at GMing, you know. And I think the thing this year for me is I've realised what that is, and although other things do appeal to me, like I love like Cthulhu Investigations and like the stuff he did with Spire and all that kind of stuff. But just brilliant games. But I know that I wouldn't do a good job of running that. I know what I'm saying that. My players might totally disagree, of course. But
perhaps next year, Neil, you need is the year to
no. This is the thing. I've tried that in the past, and I kind of got now a bank of games that I know that I'm very comfortable with, and sometimes I read. There's a game I was reading the other day, and there's just things in it, and it's kind of like it's talking about like it's kind of like that, what is it? Fail but that kind of stuff. Yeah,
fail forward.
And I just the minute I start reading stuff like that, I'm just kind of going, no. Yeah, it's just like fail, succeed, move on. Come on, let's just say let's deal with it, you know. And that's just the kind of GM I think I am, and I don't really have any desire to kind of stretch myself. I just want to enjoy playing and seeing players' little faces light up when I tell them they've hit 0 hit points and to roll up a new character. You know?
Their little faces. Oh.
Absolutely.
Oh my word. The trauma. You don't understand what you're doing to us, Neil. We've talked about, what 2020 meant for gaming. I think obviously the shift to online, and that will continue to a certain extent. I think that there will be hopefully a shift back to face-to-face. We've talked about, a little bit of what gaming's meant to us. I say personally, it's a lifeline really. But I think, this is the time of year when we're looking forward now to 2021. And, I remember getting a Patreon message from Dirt the Dice that it was saying this January this year, saying 2020 is going to be a stormer. Okay, so perhaps we won't go that far. What are we looking forward to and what do you think the shape of game will be in 2021? From my perspective, okay, I'm thinking obviously the first half of the year we're still doing all this vaccine stuff. I am determined as soon as that window opens where a group of people are all at tier 1, or we've all had our various jabs, wherever it is, small. I want to do a lot of small face-to-face game interactions, like more gaming weekends. Not necessarily large things, because I think UK Games Expo might be a challenge this year. Hopefully, Grog Meet will be on, but I'm determined to get those face-to-face gaming opportunities in, because I mean, let's say, I realise how much I miss them.
Yeah.
I thought I was a real what's the word for somebody who doesn't like anybody? What's the word? Misanthrope. Yeah. I've realised I'm not actually. I actually quite like seeing people. So that's going to be my game. And from a gaming perspective, it's keeping that balance between wanting to do lots and lots of games because I enjoy that, but also keeping hopefully maintaining some quality within that as well. So that's where I'm coming from with it. What about you guys?
I would agree with that, Steve. I think in terms of the pattern that you've identified, I think that's pretty much the way it's going to be. First half of the year. Maybe, once we get into April, maybe May, there might be some opportunities, maybe even before that, for smaller gatherings. Once the vaccine is, rolled out, and hopefully super mutated COVID, which we've learned about this week, isn't unaffected by the vaccine, then we hopefully will start to see bigger events. Maybe Albert will be a nice one, and September, and then, Grog Meet maybe even a face-to-face burrito con in August, possibly. I don't know. Still, online gaming is going to be huge for me, I think, for the foreseeable future, because that's what I was doing since, I don't know, 2016, 2 or 3 nights a week. Now sometimes it's 5 nights a week, Monday to Friday. So I would be, that will definitely continue as well.
What about you, Kay? What about you, Kat? What are your thoughts? What are your I mean, putting aside the hopes that we're still here next year, what are your hopes for gaming in 2021?
I'd like to do, face-to-face sessions again, either if it's one of the established groups that I'm running online with, or whether it's just a game at a club. I just can't wait to actually see people, to be honest, face-to-face. But the other one that actually is really odd, it's going into a game shop and actually being able to touch everything rather than just, I'm only going to look at the book I'm interested in to look at, because I don't want to upset the poor sod who's got to clean it. I would like to just go to the shops and behave like I would do normally, which is, I've never heard of that. I'll pick it up. Oh, actually, no, I'm not interested. Put it back. I didn't want to do that in the shop because the local game store to us did open, and obviously now shut. And when I went in there, all masked up and everything, hand sanitizer, but I just didn't want to touch anything I wasn't definitely going to buy. And it sounds really weird, but I'm actually looking forward to going to a game shop properly.
I think Owlbear is going to be one that I really want to go to this coming year, just because it was so good in 2019, and I definitely want to support it again. But for me, I think it's, things like the gaming weekends, it's just getting away from the house, because I have been, I've been very fortunate that I've been allowed to work from home throughout this whole pandemic so far, because I'm in a high risk group. So that means that I have barely left the house since March, and I am feeling like I'm on house arrest at this point. And because I stupidly learned to drive at the end of January in 2020, and then bought my car at the end of February, and within 2 weeks of me buying a car, we were in complete lockdown. So I'm still on the same tank of petrol that I bought in February when I bought my car, and I'm going to have to learn to drive all over again. But this is why I bought the car, so that I could get in the car and drive to these weekend gaming events and have that independence and go to gaming events that might be in a nice cottage in the middle of nowhere, as opposed to in a game shop in a big city. And I think that's what I would like to see more of in 2021.
Yeah. Much as I enjoy big events, it's great to see everybody anyway. And that's fun. Like things like Owlbear, for example, or Expo. I think for me, just doing more and more of those smaller weekends where you can be a bit more bespoke, about what you do, or like either it's one system the whole weekend, or for me, that's what I'm looking forward to. And listen, everybody, have a fantastic Christmas. Okay, I hope you get the game stuff that you want the elves to bring you. And I'm sure we'll be gaming a little bit over certainly into the new year. But 2021, get me behind me 2020 and 2021. Yeah, and it'll be great we can actually all finally meet up in person and spend far too much on alcohol.
Brilliant.
Like we did before.
Can't wait.
Thanks for listening to another exploration of my gaming vexes. If you've got any thoughts you'd like to add to what you've heard here, or a gaming vex of your own you'd like to offer up for discussion, you can contact me on Twitter @AllAnthar, or you can leave a voice message. The link's on the podcast webpage on Anchor, or can be found in the show notes. Until the next time, may all your games be free of vexatiousness, and be excellent to each other, always.